What's up, everybody? My name is Dell. This is Dell on Movies. Thanks for hanging out with me. And if you've been here before, thanks for hanging out with me again. This is episode number 2 of Movie Theater Memories. And if you're not familiar with what this is the series where I talk about my most memorable experiences in movie theaters. The first episode, we talked about Batman 89, which is why I have the Batman shirt on today. I don't have a shirt for the movie I'm going to be talking about today, and actually I'm going to be talking about two movies that would seem completely unrelated. These movies are Raiders of the Lost Ark, which is the first movie in this series, the Indiana Jones series, and a movie called Raw Force. So let me explain why these movies are going to be talked about together. It starts with Indiana Jones, of course, with Raiders of the Lost Ark. It was released in 1981. I didn't see it in 1981, even though it was a worldwide phenomenon. It was breaking box office records and doing its thing. Everybody just talked about this movie and didn't get to see it, at least not in 1981. Fast forward to 1982. In the neighborhood where I lived, we had, in New York, in Queens, we had block associations, and our block association used to always take us to baseball games. We used to see the Yankees and the Mets several times every summer. We wanted to do something different, and the head of the block association, who was my best friend's grandfather, he wanted to do something different. Just because we always go to baseball games, he was an avid baseball fan, but he's like, you know what? We have some other kids that might not be into it. Let's go ahead and do something else. Let's make a trip to the movies. Well, what are we going to see? Who knows? Looking around, the movie that everybody seems to be talking about is Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's, again, 1982, so a year after it came out in 1981, but it was still floating around in some theaters. But in this case, it was not playing by itself. So what happened is, back then, they'd have their run and then they'd by themselves, but then they kind of linger on in double and triple features. By that time, triple features were pretty much gone, but in double features, movies would just kind of hang around. So this movie was in a double feature with another movie we didn't really know. We just happened to see a commercial for it, or trailer for it on TV one day, and it was Raw Force. And if you look at the cover of the movie, I mean, it's got some insanity going on. And even in the commercial, the trailer, it was a little crazy, but it looked like just a, run-of-the-mill martial arts flick, Americanized martial arts flick, because it was a lot of a lot of white guys in the trailer. When you see that, it's really usually an American martial arts movie. So he saw this trailer also. My best friend's granddad, he saw this trailer and was like, okay, Raw Force is the movie is playing with, so get a bus, take all these kids up there, and we'll go see Raw Force and Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark. So we get there, and we actually didn't get a bus, and I misspoke there. We actually piled up a bunch of cars, so we got parents there, we got all these kids, and we ride down to the movie theater where it's playing. Raw Force is the movie that plays first. Now, Raw Force is rated R. That in itself, it was not a huge problem, especially back in 1982. Some people had some objections to that, but nobody was really like, too not trying to stop us from seeing the movie. Let me put it that way. But the movie starts, and right away, one of the first scenes of the movies is a a bamboo cage full of naked women, and they're being carried to an island or taken to an island, and they're gonna be turned over to this group of lusty monks, or we think they're lusty monks, but we find out very shortly that they're actually cannibal monks, and that is the beginning of the movie. And at this point, my friend's granddad, rest in peace, he has a decision to make. He's got all these kids. He's got like 30 kids with him, and this is the movie that's starting. And I imagine that right at the beginning, he's kind of like, all right, well, let's ride it out for a little bit. Let's see how this goes. And it didn't get any better as far as that kind of thing goes. I mean, it was just it was just nudity all over the place. And then of course we did get the martial arts, but then you got some zombies and we got cannibalism, and it was just crazy movie. And I imagine that, probably way before we got half, probably maybe a third of the way in, he really wanted to slink out and leave, or just take us all with him. But he was the kind of person who, if he promised the kids something in the neighborhood, he was going to deliver. And I always appreciated that about him. And so he stuck it out. He's like, I promised the kids Raiders of the Lost Ark. We're going to see Raiders of the Lost Ark. So we got this whole group of kids. Now, mind you, I'm one of the older kids in the group at this point, and I was 11. Me and my best friend, we were 11 years old. We got kids ranging in age from probably 7 years old up to probably 13, 14. And like I said, I was one of the older kids in the group, but he stuck it out. So I commend him for doing that, because he did promise Raiders of the Lost Ark. Now I know that some of you watching this probably would have been like, no, I would have left. There's no way I would have let a bunch of kids see that, and I totally get that. I'm fine with that, but he decided to fulfill his promise. So we stayed. We watched Raw Force, as crazy as that movie is, and then Raiders of the Lost Ark started, and we watched that also. And when it was all over, I mean, we all had a blast watching Raiders of the Lost Ark. I mean, it's just a classic, and it's a classic for a reason. It's a very fun movie, one of Spielberg's best, and everybody was just cheering and having a great time with it. And even the end of that movie gets a little tough for some of the younger kids in the audience with the melting faces and all that kind of thing. But we had to sit through Raw for us to get through it. So in my mind, no matter what, anytime Indiana Jones is brought up, especially if you bring up Raiders of the Lost Ark, Raw Force is the movie that next comes to mind. I can't unchain them from one another. They're stuck together. They're tethered. There'll always be a double feature as far as I'm concerned in my life. I don't know if other kids in the theater even remember this, but I've never forgotten this, and it helps because I'm a B movie fanatic right now. Not a fanatic, but I'm definitely a B movie fan, and this movie really kicked it off because, like I said, you start this movie, we get all the girls that are delivered to this island full of monks, and they're going to be eaten, and we shift gears. There's a cruise ship with a bunch of people on it, and including some karate students is what we're told, and we got an instructor, and then some bad guys come on, and they're trying to find some jade, some very valuable jade, and then that storyline kicks off, and of course we venture back to the island several times, and we see them cooking a woman, and it's just, and later on in the movie we got the souls of the dead monks or something like that. It's been a while since I watched it. I need to rewatch it. They come out of the ground, and yes, you got the zombies, and then you got these killer snakes, and it's just all sorts of nuts. And like I said, I appreciated it probably more than most because these are the kind of movies that if it's late at night and I just want something crazy to watch, I will throw on a movie like Raw Force, some B movie that is just doesn't make a whole lick of sense, but it's just fun to watch. And of course, like I said, this is a classic. Really love this movie. So I don't have the same kind of build up to this movie that I have for Batman. It was just one of those that it came out and it hit big, so we all wanted to see it. It wasn't one where we were anticipating it for a year beforehand. That's just not the way it worked for this movie. But of course, glad I saw it, and glad I have both movies in my collection. I can recreate that double feature whenever I want to, and I have a blast doing it. Guys, that's all I have for you on this installment of Movie Theater Memories. If you've seen Raiders of the Lost Ark or Raw Force, by some strange coincidence you've actually seen that movie, let me know what you think of either or both, and let me know some of your movie theater memories or make suggestions on what I should cover next. And if I've seen it, I'll talk about those movies, provided I had a memorable experience, because not every theater's experience is a memorable one, but this one most certainly was. So that's all I have for you guys on this one. I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.